The blue and red lights danced across the water as I secured the final cleat hitch on my boat. Two officers approached along the wooden dock, their boots thumping steadily against the planks. The taller one, Officer Ramirez, cleared his throat and said in a professional tone, "Excuse me, sir, we received a call about trespassing and unauthorized docking at this marina." I raised an eyebrow, already knowing who had dialed 911. Through my peripheral vision, I spotted a flash of platinum blonde hair and crossed arms on the shoreline. Vanessa Pollard, known to the neighborhood as the resident Karen, stood there with a smug grin, likely thinking she'd finally won our ongoing feud. Let me backtrack to explain how I ended up here, facing police on what should have been a tranquil Saturday afternoon. 3 months ago, I bought a waterfront property in Crescent Bay Estates. The stunning view and charming bungalow were draws, but the real gem was the deed's unique perk, a 51% ownership stake in the adjacent Crescent Marina. The previous owner, an elderly man named Walter Hayes, had built the marina 40 years ago when the area was just wetlands and ambition. He'd kept majority control as the neighborhood grew, safeguarding his investment with airtight legal protections. When Walter passed, his estate attorney reached out with an offer I couldn't pass up. Vanessa Pollard had been the HOA president for 7 years, ruling Crescent Bay with an iron grip cloaked in chirpy newsletters. She'd appointed herself the marina's unofficial overseer, deciding who could access the water and who couldn't. Her power trips were infamous, measuring lawns with a tape measure, issuing fines for overly festive holiday lights. Trouble started my first week in the neighborhood. I was still unpacking when Vanessa knocked, offering a welcome basket and a 3-inch binder. "Welcome to Crescent Bay," she said, her smile dripping with condescension. "I've highlighted the key HOA rules, especially sections 4 through 17 on watercraft regulations." I thanked her and set the binder aside, intending to read it later. That was my first misstep. Vanessa demanded instant obedience and adoration. When I skipped her emergency HOA meeting on new resident orientation, she took it as a personal affront. The real clash came when I brought my boat to the marina, modest 24-foot fishing boat, nothing flashy but well-loved. As I backed my trailer down the ramp, Vanessa appeared like a summoned bureaucrat. "Excuse me," she said, barely hiding her glee. "You can't launch that without HOA approval." I calmly explained that I owned the property at 32 Bayside Lane, which included marina rights. Her face turned a vivid shade of scarlet as she stammered, "That doesn't matter. All watercraft need HOA board approval." That's when I dropped the bombshell. "Actually, Vanessa," I said with a slight smile, "I don't just have marina rights. I own 51% of the marina itself, purchased with the Hayes property." Her expression was a mix of shock and fury, but I should have known she wouldn't back down. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa waged a campaign worthy of a political thriller. She flooded the HOA email list with melodramatic subject lines: "Unauthorized vessel threatens community standards, property values at risk from reckless boater." She orchestrated spontaneous, resident walk-bys while I worked on my boat, complete with head shaking and mutters about neighborhood decline. She filed complaints with the HOA board, the City Harbor Authority, and even the local boating club. Each time, I responded with copies of my deed and ownership papers, but Vanessa pressed on. The harassment intensified when she started photographing my boat, claiming it violated HOA aesthetic standards. She measured its dock clearance to argue it was 2 inches over some invented line. She even hired an independent marine consultant, her cousin with a boating permit. The tipping point came at the monthly HOA meeting. Vanessa stood at the podium, waving through a PowerPoint titled "The Boat Crisis, a Threat to Our Community." She presented slides of my boat from unflattering angles, marked with red arrows pointing to supposed violations. After her 45-minute tirade, I raised my hand and stood. The room hushed as I connected my phone to the projector. "I'd like to share something," I said calmly. The screen displayed the marina's original deed and incorporation documents. "As you can see," I explained patiently, "the marina is a separate legal entity from the HOA. The majority owner me has full authority over slip assignments, boat approvals, and operations. The HOA has no jurisdiction beyond standard property owner agreements." Whispers filled the room. Several board members shifted uncomfortably, realizing they'd been complicit in harassing a legal property owner. Vanessa's face flushed a deep red. "This is absurd," she shrieked. "I've managed this marina for 7 years. You can't just stroll in and claim ownership." I shrugged. "I didn't claim anything, Vanessa. I bought it legal deed, filed with the county. Want to see the tax records?" That's when she made her fatal error. 2 days later, as I returned from a morning sale, I found the police waiting at the dock. Vanessa had called 911, claiming I was trespassing on HOA property and illegally mooring a vessel. Officer Ramirez listened as I explained, showing him my documentation on my phone. His partner, Officer Lee, stifled a grin as I scrolled through the ownership papers. Vanessa stood nearby, arms crossed, foot tapping. Ramirez turned to her. "Ma'am, this gentleman owns the marina. He can't trespass on his own property." Vanessa's voice hit a new pitch. "But the HOA has rules. We have standards. This violates everything we stand for." Officer Lee stepped in firmly. "Ma'am, calling 911 for a false emergency is a misdemeanor. You've wasted city resources on a personal dispute." The next few days were a whirlwind. Word of Vanessa's failed 911 call spread fast. Several marina slip renters approached me, sharing tales of her arbitrary rules. Lisa Nguyen from Slip 15 said Vanessa tried to ban her paddleboard for being too teal. Mark Torres from Slip 27 recounted how she demanded a boat usage essay for his slip renewal. I called an emergency meeting for slip holders and residents. The community center was packed as I outlined my marina plans. "First," I said, "we're upgrading the dock's new cleats, better lighting, proper safety gear. Second, slips will be assigned based on availability and fair pricing, not on whether you attend Vanessa's wine nights." The crowd cheered. Third, we're setting clear, reasonable no more aesthetic committees or boat beauty pageants. If your vessel is seaworthy and you're a good neighbor, you're welcome. Vanessa sat in the back, fuming. When I opened the floor, she stood and spat. "This is a coup. You're ruining everything that makes Crescent Bay special." An elderly resident, Clara, stood and said calmly, "Vanessa, the only thing being ruined is your chokehold on this community. We're tired of living under your violation notices." The room erupted in agreement. Stories poured out. The lawn ornament purge of 2018, the mailbox shade conflict of 2021, the birdhouse ban that drove 2 families away. I let everyone speak before returning to the podium. "Here's the plan," I said firmly. "The marina will operate independently of HOA oversight. I'm also enforcing a strict anti-harassment policy. Anyone who intimidates or falsely reports marina users will be banned from the premises." Vanessa's lawyer, a jittery man named Greg Larson, whispered urgently to her. She ignored him and shouted, "You can't do this. I'll sue. I'll call the state HOA board. I'll go to the press." Her outburst was cut short by a motion from the HOA board. Vice President Elena Ruiz stood. "I move for a vote of no confidence in our current HOA president for misuse of authority and exposing our association to legal liability." The vote was quick, 17 for, 2 against, with 1 abstention from Vanessa's cousin. Elena continued, "I also move to formally separate HOA governance from marina operations, recognizing Mr. Carter's legal ownership and authority." That passed unanimously. Vanessa grabbed her purse and stormed out, but not before hissing, "This isn't over. You'll regret this." The next morning, I posted the new marina rules: simple, fair, safety-focused. I added a sign at the entrance: Crescent Marina, privately owned and operated. Slip rentals available to respectful community members. 2 weeks later, Vanessa applied for a slip, having bought a small motorboat, likely to claw her way back into marina politics. I reviewed her application, noting her false 911 call, harassment of users, and pending misdemeanor charge. I stamped, denied, and wrote, "Due to documented harassment and false reporting against marina property, this application is rejected. Decision final." When Vanessa got the denial, she showed up at the marina office, screaming loud enough to echo across the water. "You can't do this to me. I am Crescent Bay." I looked up from my paperwork. "Vanessa, the public marina 6 miles north is open. I hear they love HOA compliance. Her failed legal challenges to my ownership drained her finances, forcing her to sell her house. Rumor has it she moved to a landlocked condo in Nevada. Her final HOA meeting was brief. She sat silently as the new board reversed her draconian rules. The marina flourished under fair management. Families returned to the water, kids fished from the docks, and sunsets were enjoyed without fear of fines. Vanessa's 911 call backfired spectacularly, exposing her overreach. The false report charge stuck, hitting her with $3,000 in fines and 40 hours of community service. Her unanimous removal from the HOA board was immediate. A local paper ran a story, "HOA President's Overreach Sinks Her Reign," tanking her career as a property manager. Her last words, upon learning of the charges, were a choked whisper, $3,000 for one phone call. Her lawyer nodded grimly, saying she was lucky it wasn't worse.